Hey, hi guys, welcome to the Yogaman live session. Hope you guys are doing well. I just want to test something small and then we get started. You're most welcome. Doing well. I just want to test something small and then. Fantastic. Yeah. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. My name is Yogaman, and I have a few things to talk about as a citizen of this country, and of course, as somebody that has a right to vote and somebody that has a right to talk about issues that are happening in our country. First and foremost, I want to thank you so much, guys, for the support. The channel is growing, and we get into a better step every single day. We get new people subscribing, and we get new people reaching out, telling us what we can do better and what, of course, we can work on. So, I want to take this moment right now to thank you so much for everything that you've done for the channel. We are growing stronger and we're looking forward to having better conversations on this platform. So first and foremost, I want to talk about the situation we're in today as Ugandans, as Africans. We actually live in a situation that is very, very tricky. We are facing a serious crisis in terms of the pandemic that we are going through, and we are also facing a serious crisis of leadership in this pandemic. COVID-19 has really, really showed a lot of spaces and left a lot that needs to be worked on, especially in terms of our systems and also in terms of the way we handle situations in times of emergencies. Now, COVID-19 is a reality that is affecting almost everyone around the world. And one thing that we need to appreciate is that it has isolated a country or particular nations or cities for that matter for them to be affected and others not. So COVID-19 has affected everybody equally, but those nations that have been fully prepared or those that have been actually fully well prepared since the breakout of this COVID-19 have had a better way of dealing with their people and dealing with their circumstances. For the nations where preparation was not really, really adequate, they still have a lot of challenges, and my nation is not unique to the challenges as well. But today I'm not here to talk about COVID-19. I'm here to talk about the reality of our leadership shortcomings and how we improve for a better future. Now, for the good of this video, I usually prefer to do my videos in English because I want to reach out to all people from all walks of life who can be able to listen and understand maybe the points that I'm trying to put across. And this is why I am doing this video in English. Now, many of you are going to ask me a question. How do I find interest in talking about such a topic? First and foremost, for the longest time, I have really been voting. I have gotten to understand that sometimes we keep quiet too much and leave and not focus on the things we're supposed to do as wananchi or as individuals and citizens in our countries, because we simply think someone else out there is supposed to do that part. We forget that we are part of the equation. We forget that we are part of this system. Okay, and if we're part of the system, then we must be able to come out and play our part in terms of making sure that we reach out and put our ideas forward and put our thoughts as well to be understood. And this is one of the reasons why I find interest in talking about this topic. Now, for some of you that will be watching this video, you very well know that we are in a period where we are close to elections. And this calls for a lot of a lot of campaigns. It calls for a lot of tension within the political circles and, of course, within the political parties. But also for Ugandans, because it's a time when Ugandans get to decide who is going to become a leader. This is the time when Ugandans get to vet who has done what, who has performed, to what level, and that kind of stuff. So recently I read an article in the newspapers which was trying to rank how MPs had performed. Of course, they had rated the overall general performance of our members of parliament, and it was evidently clear that out of the 300 something MPs we have, the ratings were only for a few, maybe the top 20 or top 10 per region, which is not sufficient, but of course, which also is a very great indicator of what's going on out there. So, um, in the past few weeks, we've had tensions rising. And these tensions actually are rising also in political circles, rising from the political parties to the political actors, to the Uganda police, to the UPDF, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it is expected, and it's not unique to anyone. It's not a unique thing that we are going through this period. However, it is very important to note that if we do not become conscious of what we have at our hands, we are likely to make mistakes that could end up costing us a lot more than what we actually anticipated. So we have some challenges that have been, over time, governments face these challenges. Over time, leaders face a few shortcomings, which I think is it's a very normal thing. There is no leadership that is 100% perfect. And for me, I think for leadership to work, leadership must be able to listen to the citizens. The citizens must be able to speak to their leaders. I think that is how leadership that is effective and leadership that solves problems and looks into what the citizens are actually asking their government to provide does become effective on a daily in terms of making sure that the growth and development involves everybody in that country or in that community. So this brings me to a point where, we in a government that is multi-party system, and we also need to accept that, yes, we're going to have a lot of political actors, a lot of different political actors in different circles who are going to come out and try to raise their voices. And it is very, very key that every voice that is risen is actually listened to. Now, listening to a voice doesn't mean that you exactly do what they say, but listen and see if there is some kind of substance that you need to consider. Uganda is, first of all, before we talk about the multi-party system, we need to talk about the people of Uganda. Uganda has a variety of people coming from different backgrounds, coming from different ethnicities, coming from different cultures, and speaking different languages. So that means as the leadership, as the government that is taking center stage in activities and policies that govern this country, it is very important to note that that is fundamentally something we can't run away from. Now, getting to the reality of where people are pointing out certain things as regards leadership, it's not a judgment day. It's not judgment day. It's not that Ugandans are saying this is, what has been, and we're going to live like that forever. When people start to point out issues that actually seem to be, portraying what they think of the current status quo, we as a people that are in leadership need to start understanding why these voices are coming up. Because if you silence the voices, then you are not going to be leading. You are going to be actually ruling. And the truth is, rulers or people that are ruling over others usually never get to that place where they are leading a certain direction where they want people to be moving to. And this is, for me, the major point, that even our leaders who are in power right now need to understand and listen, rather than creating factions and sections of people where some people that try to bring out voices are threatened. I think it is very, very high time our leadership, our people who are in big offices, people who are in government, people who are policymakers, this is the time for you to think outside the box and start listening to what the citizens are saying. Because rest assured, the world is changing. The world is changing. There is a lot of information out there. There's a lot of social media out there. So if you decide not to listen to what the voices of the people are going to listen to themselves. And you know what that means? Because they all feel like they don't have anybody to suggest things to, but rather to suggest things to themselves and find alternatives and find solutions, which to me, I think, may not be the best opportunity for anyone that is actually hoping to take up leadership and take this country to a greater level. I still think there is space for listening. There is a lot of space for listening, and there is a lot of space not to threaten those that speak. Because truth of the matter is, there's a lot of social media today. Whether you threaten those who speak or not, they will still speak. And it is better to speak when they know they speak to somebody who will listen and maybe try to provide answers, who will listen and maybe try to change the way things are running, than stopping them from not talking because you don't want them to talk. You stop them from asking because you don't want to listen to their questions. Now that kills the other ideal of leadership, because if you're leading people, you want them to move to a certain direction. But for leadership to be effective, then you have got to listen to what the people are saying. And for me, I think this is the biggest question that even our government in Uganda needs to really, really come out strongly and work on. Do not silence the voices of the people. This will one day come out. So what I think needs to be done is listen to what the people are saying. Listen to what Ugandans are saying. And it doesn't mean that everything Ugandans say, you're going to implement it there and then. But it is very important to understand how people actually think about the kind of leadership that you're providing. It is also very important to understand how people perceive the way you make your decisions, because that is the only way you now become effective in terms of implementing the things they're asking you to do, and in terms of also looking at some of the stuff that they really, really want to be worked on. So the question of reality of what's going on ground should not be scared, should not at any one time be taken for granted. It is very important for us to understand reality of what people are going through, reality of what people in villages are going through, reality of what our schools look like today, reality of what our hospitals, our roads look like today, reality of the cost of power, the cost of electricity, the cost of necessities that people use today. These are fundamental realities that the leadership team must be able to listen to. Failure to do that, then you are creating a group of citizens who don't have a place where they can put their concerns, who don't have space to raise their concerns. And that calls for a lot of more people starting now to think they have lost the hope, that their leaders are not actually listening to them. For me, I think this period is a very amazing one. It is definitely very important that we change leadership. It is very important that we get to elect new leaders and we get to maintain those that have worked. But also it is very important for leaders to understand that, hey, it is not always going to be praises for you. You are going to face some kind of realities. And this is what we actually need to put into consideration. that people are not going to only be singing your name. We are not going only to say, hey, 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 well done. We are going to say, hey, look here, well done in that area, but you still lacking something in this area. And I think that is where we need to be going. That is where we need to be focusing. As a people in this country, we need to think about the leadership question. We need to think about the leadership question. We need to think about how we actually drive the conversation, how we listen to people. It is important that you take your decisions as leaders. You take your decisions to implement anything you find comfortable for you, or anything you think will actually result into positives. But also remember, you just cannot be considering only your side of the story. You need to ask the people that are actually going to be affected by implementation of these things, implementation of these policies, these laws, and stuff like that. Recently, there is something going on about the artists and Uganda Communications Commission, and there are laws that are going. There's a law that was effected, which actually has clauses and has sections that are very, 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 very unsupportive for the industry, and because of that, the section that is supposed to be listening and giving recognizing this law and fulfilling all the requirements is already saying this is not for the good of the industry. What does that mean? That means the industry stakeholders were actually skipped in the process. And this is what usually results into chaos, usually, because people that are affected by these things put in place do not have an opportunity, do not have a chance to participate in some of these conversations. The moment people don't have that opportunity, then it is very hard to always bring something that will be for the good of those people. So this is the same thing we're saying, that the question of leadership is not that people are supposed to praise you all the time, or is not the fact that you're not supposed to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. So when people raise questions, listen to what the voices are saying. And that is the leadership, because leadership is about giving direction. Leadership is about leading people to a particular destination. Okay, if you're going to have people following you closely to lead them to a particular destination where you want to take them, then you have got to listen. Without listening, you are breeding a lot of conversations that you're not going to see. And like I have told you guys, whether our leaders listen or not, the conversations are going to happen. We live in a generation where communication happens every second. We live in a generation where social media is having a lot of content. We live in a generation where people share a message in 1 minute and it is global. It's already gone viral. And if you think about those, then you think about the leadership, a small group of people that is providing direction, that is, providing all these things for a given country or a given particular community, then it becomes very important that we recognize the essence of listening to what challenges people are facing. When you're dealing with a multicultural community, you always have to make sure that this community is actually given clear attention to. You don't want to look like you're favoring a certain community, a certain section in that community, and ignoring the other. And you don't want to also be portrayed ignoring a certain group and raising or supporting the other. So these questions, when people ask, why isn't this community being catered about? Why is it that this community is the only one that is in this particular section? You need to be able to provide answers. Don't shy away from the answers and create anger and create threats for people asking questions. Rather than threatening the people asking questions, invite them closer. Ask them why they are actually speaking that way, why they are asking questions like that. Then go back and redesign. This is what nations do. This is what good leadership does. Good leadership is not actually threatening those that ask you questions. Good leadership is listening to every voice that is asking a question and providing answers. And this is what Ugandans expect. This is what every African expects from their government. But failure to do that, you are going to shy away from people's questions. And usually these questions include a lot of realities because it's people on ground that face these realities. And if you can't do that, then it's going to bring a lot of distancing between the leaders and the led. And this is a gap that you don't want to widen. This is a gap that you always have to keep so close to the people you're leading, because that is the only way effective leadership can work and drive people to a particular direction. So I hope you guys, I know many of you have been watching the events that have been happening. I don't believe in throwing a lot of insult. I don't believe in throwing a lot of violence. I don't believe in violence actually. And I also don't believe in creating arguments that segregate people. I don't believe in that. But I believe in leadership that provides answers whenever questions are raised. For me, that is the leadership that matters to the community. That is the leadership that people want to see. Leadership that runs away from the concerns of the citizens has a problem. And the problem that you're going to face is if you have a small gap between the leaders and the led, the more this gap goes wider, the more challenges you face. Because look at it, you as a leader, you just cannot implement things you know are not workable within your people. And this is what brings a very huge gap. This is what actually creates a gap between the led and the people that are leading. Because the moment you start creating laws and policies and implementing them when they cannot be actualized in real life, that is where you start to get challenges, because many of the people are not actually going to embrace this kind of direction or this kind of leadership that you're providing. And what will result into that, people will start opposing the leadership that you have. And opposition does not mean everybody wants the leadership to go away. Opposition means there are certain things that people think should be done better. And this is why people ask questions. There are certain things where people know that in a multicultural community, every culture must be given some bit of recognition. Every culture must be given an opportunity to shine. Every tribe, every group of people that you have in a community must be given some attention and a platform for it to thrive and provide for its people. So this is the kind of scenario we're in. And like I have said previously, people did not have the platforms to communicate. Very few people, those that could access media, those that could access newspapers, had the opportunity to communicate. Today, I have mentioned here that if anything happened now, it goes viral in 2 minutes, it will be global. Okay, it will be global. It will be global news, it will be everywhere. This is why we are living in a very interesting moment of our time. That communication goes viral anytime. Whether you listen or you don't, communication will go out. And the moment people start communicating and you're not listening to what they're saying, then you are widening the gap between the leaders and the led. And when that happens, usually people tend to think that the leaders are not taking them serious because they raise issues and their issues are not being paid attention to. And for me, I think that is where we need to start from as a nation. So thank you very much, guys, for watching. And if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And also don't forget to like and comment on this conversation. Leadership is about listening to the voices of the led. And this is what we need to be recognizing. As we head out for the elections, as we head out, we need to recognize that people are going to ask questions and they need answers. Good leaders provide answers. Good leaders don't threaten the people they are leading for asking questions. So, alios for God and my country. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll catch you guys again on the next one. Cheers.